Welcome to What is New in the World of Blockchain. My name is David Orban, and I am Managing Advisor of Beyond Enterprises. In this series, we like to meet with people who get their hands dirty, who build the infrastructure of blockchain and the various applications that it can support. We have had 10 years already, but I can tell you there is a lot that still needs to be done. And today I am here with one of those people who really get their hands dirty and who are building valuable infrastructure. My guest today is Federico Ast, the founder and the CEO of Kleros, the Justice Protocol. Federico, welcome to What is New in the World of Blockchain.
Hello, David. Thank you for having me.
So I like to set the stage asking our guests where they are in the world physically, since just as blockchain, today's collaboration allows everyone to be wherever they want.
Yeah, well, I'm in my hometown of Buenos Aires. I'm here because of the holiday season. I spend like most of my time traveling otherwise, but yeah, now I'm where I was born and where I like to live.
And enjoy the summer because the southern hemisphere is nice and warm. In the northern hemisphere, for many of us, it is pretty cold these days. When and how did you get into the world of blockchain? How did you meet, and did it take you long before you realized that it would be something important?
Good. Well, I am from Argentina, right? And Argentina is a country that was quite early into the blockchain revolution because of the history of the country with very high inflation, very bad governance. So, like we Argentinians, we kind of discovered quite early about the potential of having, a centralized, monetary system which would work better than the very lousy one we had, government backed. And so I think that I started my early contact with blockchain was in maybe 2013, and I wasn't that much interested into the financial applications. I was more interested into like the governance type of applications. Back then, like there were very few people working on governance and blockchain. Some of them were. I mean, Santi was, I think, starting with the Democracy Earth back then, trying to see how blockchain could make some improvements into. Back then, it was a voting system, how you could make like tamper-proof voting. But then I kind of saw that there was another important part of the governance of any community, which is the justice system. So justice tends to be like slow, expensive, so my question was like, can we use blockchain to rethink or maybe reinvent how justice systems work? And that was the question which started with everything.
Justice is a fundamental part of human societies, whether just the ability to act on resolving a conflict and achieving an outcome that is better for the particular community, or if it is codified in laws, and there is a more formal dispute resolution system like those that we use currently in the nation states. So what we are accustomed to are either the kind of instinctive, natural ways of resolving conflict on one hand, and on the other, the more bureaucratic, more baroque ways where 90% of us understand the rules because we have seen the American movies to the point where there are places with the police laughing where criminals complain that their Miranda rights are not being read to them, and these places have no kinds of regulations around those Miranda rights, but the
Yeah.
criminals learned about the justice system from the movies. So, um, how does blockchain enter the picture? How can blockchain help both an individual to understand what the opportunities are and a system, if it embraces the blockchain, to have better outcomes?
Yeah. So blockchains have this very important feature, which is like the immutability. So the immutability is, if we bring this to the analog world, I mean, one thing we expect from a justice system is the idea of due process, and the idea of the system to work exactly as it was, coded to work. So there is no like tampering with the evidence, or there's no tampering with, hey, let's put my friend as a judge and on all that, right? So blockchain has this really, really cool feature that is like kind of a digital due process, if you want. I mean, you have the certainty, if you use a blockchain enabled justice system, which is well built, of course, the certainty that it will, the cases that are sent to that, I mean, system are going to be resolved exactly as they were supposed to be resolved, and no one can tamper with that. So that's a very important aspect of blockchain, which applies very importantly to justice system. And there is another very important aspect, which is the crypto economics. So blockchains, monetary tokens, they have the potential to provide incentives for people to behave in the right ways, the right ways, in meaning make a behavior that results in a good outcome for the system at large. There is a lot in every governance application. There is a lot of importance in this. You want in the justice system, in traditional justice system, you have like lots of provisions made to make sure that the judge is not, bribed, that the jurors who are part of a traditional jury, trial, are not going to be, biased in some way or some other. So, so blockchains have this idea of how to provide incentives through some token, through game theory, in order to produce, the results that the justice system should produce, right? So these are two very important features that you want from a justice system, where blockchain is very important to achieve.
The basis that you explain is, of course, valid in the abstract. And there are a lot of people with important ideas who kind of stop there. Maybe they write about the ideas, or even worse, they are jealous about the ideas and they don't even write about them. But then few people go beyond and are able to actually implement the ideas. And you have been among these people, because you went from idea to action and you implemented Kleros. Did you find the process from going to idea to implemented protocol difficult? How did you navigate the necessity of also financing the development of Kleros itself? So, what was your experience in creating a blockchain-based startup?
Well, that's a very long answer. I'll try to do my best to do it short, so we don't take all the time. But so my when I had this early idea about blockchain and justice, and also crowdsourcing, I mean, it was extremely like early age, and early stage in the development, Ethereum didn't exist. I mean, it was like 2013, 2014. Ethereum wasn't even launched, right? So so I had this idea of something that I thought should exist in the future, but I mean I had no idea of how this would work, and I also didn't have the skills to really. I'm not a coder, and what we do at Kleros is also like I mean it's extremely high level because you have lots of different elements that you need to combine into one. I mean, you have the smart contract development part, you have the crypto economics side, all the incentive design, all of the legal aspects, and all the business aspects, and it's extremely hard to do. So, as you say, some people like they don't tell the idea to anyone because they are afraid that others, steal it or whatever that means in open source. But like what I did was on the contrary. I just said, okay, I have this idea. I mean, and I don't know how to do it. I'm just going to publish, a post and try to see if someone, at least, maybe I can inspire someone to build it, and I'd be happy to, be that little part in this story. But so one day, I get an email from someone who I know who was also working on decentralized governance, and it's a woman called Suzanne from BitNation, a very, very early, old project, and she tells me that she was a jury in a hackathon in France, and that there was some guy who had presented a project that was quite similar to what I was thinking of, and so she introduced me to to who now is my co-founder, Clément, who had like the technical skills to make this happen. So that's how Kleros started in May 2017. And so first lesson, don't be afraid to share your ideas, because ideas are more valuable that are out there than just inside here. And then you will get more and more people enthusiastic about it. And so we started having more people joining, and we did a token sale. This brought more interest, and and that's how Kleros basically started.
And you said you are not a coder, so the complementarity of skills is also very important, where you are able to articulate the idea, communicate it, promote it on one hand, and on the other hand, you have your co-founder who can put it in running code that can be improved upon by other people as well. And you are confirming the need of talking about the idea. Otherwise, you would never be able to find the people who are as enthusiastic about the challenge as you are. Also, Kleros, as very naturally, almost all, if not all, the blockchain projects is open source. So it can naturally attract people who are interested in improving it, who can be inspired by it, and grows that way. So in the homepage of Kleros, we see the various ways of the native token being staked and the jurors being paid, and the disputes that are being addressed. What kind of disputes is the system today geared towards usefully addressing? It is not going to be probably something around criminal justice, right? For example.
No, of course not. When I first present Kleros, typically say, "Oh, you want to replace lawyers by some random anonymous internet judges?" No, of course, this is not going to replace, traditional systems. And this is intended basically for a lot of claims and situations that are not correctly addressed by traditional systems, in particular in the digital world. The easiest example to introduce Kleros to anyone is just, I mean, let's say I hire you, David, through a Web3 freelancing platform to do some video for me or some whatever for me, and then, I mean, how do I make sure that you are going to make a good quality job, right? So let's say I put some money into an escrow, smart contract, and then there is an arbitrator that's Kleros. So if you do your job correctly, I mean, I release the payment, you get your money, I get my video or whatever, and everyone's happy. But if there is a claim, I mean, I tell you, I don't think you did a good quality job, then I can submit a dispute to Kleros, and Kleros is going to choose a panel of jurors who are going to analyze the agreement we had, analyze the product that you delivered, and then any other relevant evidence, and then they're going to vote on who is right. Let's say I win because the majority of the jurors think I'm right, so I get the money from the escrow back, and then that solves the problem. And so this is a very simple example of a claim that cannot be correctly resolved just by smart contracts. Smart contracts are great because they have this immutability and they can make sure that the procedure will be followed. But smart contracts are not smart enough to evaluate complex evidence like, was this video good quality or not? Or, I mean, was this NFT plagiarized from another one? I mean, the image or not? Or in the case of content moderation, lots of the disputes that we have on the internet are about, comments that violate some terms and conditions of some, social network or whatever. And there's a lot of human subjectivity and human interpretation into deciding if some comment violates or not. So because irony, because of context, because of lots of things that smart contracts cannot do, and probably AI will find it hard just to fully automate this process. So in all of these layers where you have some human interpretation requirement, so that's potentially a use case for Kleros.
As we were preparing, you also showed me the curated list of tokens that is a successful application of Kleros. Tell me about this as well.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to a world of crypto assets where you will have thousands of crypto assets, new crypto assets being developed and issued every day. And so we're going to have a tougher time on how do we decide, do we find out which of those are safe, which of those are not Ponzi's, are not scams, are not impersonation of other tokens. So we need some very fast and very a cheap system to verify, compliance system to verify that these that new tokens are not scams. So, and lots of these decisions have some human complexity. For example, you have to decide whether some token would count as a security under the law of Singapore. How do you make a smart contract make that decision automatically? It's extremely hard, but you need some human layer of people who will do this verification in a neutral way. And so this is where Kleros also can work, in a way as a securities lawyer regulator would work, just decentralized. And if you think it through, imagine a world where you have more decentralized exchanges, more DeFi apps. So if you are a decentralized exchange, how do you decide which tokens to list into your exchange? Either you have your team decide which one you want to list, which is not really decentralized, or you have some decentralized community-driven process, which can be some governance by your token holders, or some other neutral service that can provide some assistance. And Kleros can provide some help into deciding which tokens to list into exchanges, lending protocols, whatever DeFi protocol you want, where you need some human layer of verification. That's a use case for Kleros.
one of the projects that was born out of the experience of Kleros in general, but this token listing in particular applies to a different challenge, that of a distributed and decentralized identity system for people, actually, rather than tokens in this case. And that is proof of humanity. So can you tell us about that, and how was it born? What is its purpose? How it works?
Yeah, sure. Well, we all have seen, I think, Blade Runner, and we all remember, the Blade Runners trying to, find the replicants, and this is not so much science fiction in the future. Maybe the replicants are not going to be biologically designed robots that look like us, but they totally can become, in the world of the metaverse, they can be deepfakes. So now in Telegram, you already have bots trying to impersonate people to scam others. Bots asking for funds from, hey, send me funds to this Ether address or whatever. And these bots can also mess with distribution of airdrops, because they claim, people make lots of bots who claim airdrops, and then this messes with all of the design of the incentives. Or they can also mess with governance systems. If bots start voting, then they start having lots of votes that are not real humans. And so the internet is needing, it's more and more clear that this identity layer, which is based on the blockchain, in the sense of being owned by the person who makes the sign up process. Not like having a Facebook profile that, it's your identity, but it's Facebook property, basically. So we want a system that can be civil resistant, in the sense of one account per person, and that this account is owned by the owner of the private key of that makes a submission, right? So Proof of Humanity is an app that we built, and that we are pushing in partnership with Democracy Earth, where you can make a submission of a video, and then other people can verify if your submission is from a human, and from a human that it's not duplicated. Not from someone who has a previous account on the system. So you have to send a video, you have to send a photo, you have to get someone who is already in the platform to vouch for you. And then after you comply with all of these ideas and steps, then you are accepted into the platform, and you get your identity there. Or if some user thinks that you either are a deep fake or you are duplicate, they can challenge your submission, and they can steal your deposit. And we have over 10,000 profiles now. It started I think it was in May, it's extremely successful. This is starting to become.
What is the percentage of submissions that are successfully challenged?
Not that many. At the beginning,
no one took the effort of creating a digital human and then try to scam the system.
They tried. Yes, it was not successful. It's easier to do with the photo, but as you know, you have to, besides the photo, you have to submit a video. Say, I certify I'm a real human. There you go, and there you are.
Yeah,
and then you can. So
I am a real human, and that I am not already registered in this registry.
There you go. So it's easy to make a fake photo, but at the moment it's still harder to make a convincing deepfake video. So for now, no one did it. And I'm not saying that people will not do it at some point, but the thing is that for now, doing a convincing deepfake able to fool everyone is kind of more expensive than what you have to win in order if you get accepted, right? So the incentives are not there yet But as deepfake technology gets cheaper, it's totally possible that people will try this, and I imagine this becoming an arms race between submitters who try to make bot accounts with the deepfake videos, and challengers who will run anti-deepfake technology to detect them. And so this kind of Blade Runner, arms race. That's how it's going to happen.
So tell me about the accrual, the automatic accrual of the UBI tokens, where UBI stands for Universal Basic Income. What is the relationship between the desire and the ability to establish a digital identity that each of the participants own, and the system that pays them as a consequence?
Yeah. So as you know, there is a very big narrative going these days about technological unemployment and how this world of abundance that the Singularity University promised us it's coexists with the reality of AI machines and etc. So at some point, I think it's becoming more and more mainstream. I'd say that we're going to have some universal basic income. It's not very clear where this UBI comes from. Is it from governments? Is it from international organizations? Is it from big tech like Facebook, or is it by some decentralized blockchain system? So as part of the design of the incentives for people to want to participate in Proof of Humanity, we partnered with Democracy Earth, which is led by Santi Sidi. So every profile that is registered in the Proof of Humanity, they start dripping constantly the UBI token. Just by having your profile verified there and making sure that you're a human and that you are not duplicated. So then you start getting the token. And this is an incentive for people to want to participate in Proof of Humanity. And it's potentially, if Proof of Humanity can get larger and larger, it can, be a credible way to distribute universal basic income to everyone, which it's important to mention that UBI is meant to be for everyone, just for the fact of being human. So this profile, this system, the Proof of Humanity, is extremely good at building a list where all of the participants are human and are unique. And this makes it like a match made in heaven for UBI distribution.
Currently, the system drips 1 UBI per hour. Is the UBI supply such that is going to be able to give 1 UBI per hour to 8 billion people for the next 100 years?
I guess there are many different ways in order to answer this question. The supply can, I don't know, maybe can change, but I think that the underlying, question about this is if we are really going to a world of abundance, as Singularity promises, and more things are produced at a more efficient way, and bots start to produce this, then we would expect everything to start costing less in terms of the UBI token, right? That's at least the assumption on which I think all of the not only UBI, Proof of Humanity UBI, all UBIs, they assume that humanity has reached a development of productive forces that makes it economically viable for giving people free stuff, when this was unthinkable before the industrial age. So it's not that much about the supply of UBI, which of course can be changed by governance, and the dripping rate, this can be changed by governance as well. It's more about is this narrative of extreme productivity and extreme replacement of human labor by machines real? And if it is UBI a good way to distribute this value that is being created in these novel ways?
it is interesting. I believe that until a year or two ago, central bankers desperately tried to increase inflation, and were just floored by the fact that it didn't matter how much money they printed, inflation would not increase. One of the reasons, in my opinion, is because they don't understand and don't take into account the deflationary power of exponential technology. The example, and I'm not the only one using this example, but in this specific context, I think it is relevant, is how this little slab of electronics is, let's say, $1,000 today. 10 years ago, it would be $100,000, and 20 years ago, $1 billion, and 30 years ago, no amount of money in the world would have been able to create the object, and as a consequence, the value that the object creates was completely unreachable. And that manifests itself all across industries and economies, and it is, in my opinion, the fundamental reason why inflation couldn't be induced with the traditional monetary lever. Also, today, there is a lot of fear about inflation, and once again, it is completely misunderstood, because the source of inflation today is the supply shock that the pandemic created, and the increased demand in those economies that, at least over the course of the past few months, and hopefully further in the future as well, were able to start purchasing goods and services again. So the two factors together, the supply shock on one side and the increased demand on the other, is generating the inflation, which is a correct market reaction, and it is not induced by the monetary lever. So I think what you expressed about the fact that the UBI token itself should become more capable of allowing people to find products and services that they need in their daily lives, distances it from the traditional manipulation that standard monetary policies would require and would support. Now, all of this, the applications of blockchain to justice, the applications of blockchain to the future of human dignity, are exciting and exhilarating, and it is fantastic that you have been able to take steps of implementing it, popularizing it, having it spread from person to person in various use cases that we have seen today. What are the bottlenecks and the challenges that you see in going from 10,000 people to 10 million people in proof of humanity, or in the case of Kleros, going from 1,000 disputes to 1 million or 1 billion disputes?
Well, that's what was the challenge I put together into this blog post we recently published. We need to go from 1,000 to 1 billion. So at this moment, the story of Kleros since the start to now is like was the experimental phase. It's okay. Can this actually work? I mean, can you build this first? Can you build this, which is this very new technology, which is Ethereum? Can this system of incentives actually work? I mean, all of this game theoretical. So, well, yeah, it worked. if it worked in 1,000, then it can work in 1 billion. So bottlenecks. The first bottleneck is, of course, Ethereum scalability. I mean, if we want to address the needs of the bottom of the pyramid, as they call it, I mean, you cannot have a $500 transaction fee to cast a vote. So one part is technical, and it's being resolved as we speak by Ethereum developers and other people in the ecosystem. And we ourselves, we have a internal team of research which is figuring out how we should build Kleros. So the specs for Kleros 2.0 are already set, and we are developing this new version, which we plan to launch in Q2 of 2022. So that's one challenge. Then a second challenge is about market. What business models are going to work with Kleros? I mean, insurance. What companies will use this? What protocols will use this? I mean, content moderation, NFTs, which is the new reality of intellectual property, if you want. So, a second challenge that it's not a bottleneck, because we are working on this and we already have some ideas, but it's still something that is to figure out completely, is what is exactly the product market fit of Kleros. Then there is a third challenge, that is legal, if you want. I mean, is this method of arbitration acceptable as legally valid in the traditional world? Because of course we have the metaverse world, but we also have the traditional world where people, have different methods of dispute resolution, and Kleros crypto economic method is quite different from traditional. It's kind of having, it's like Kleros is Wikipedia, and traditional courts or traditional arbitration for consumer disputes are, Britannica. So it's switching a bit the idea of how this works. There are lots of challenges of how to make sure that people see Kleros as a fair method of dispute resolution. If people don't see Kleros as fair and neutral, it's not going to work. So this is also a big part of us, giving talks, making presentations, explaining why Kleros is better than other systems, of course, and making it clear that Kleros is not for everything. Kleros is not going to replace, murder trial juries. Of course, this is for the rising amount of commercial content moderation, intellectual property, small claims that are arising into the metaverse world, and we don't really have a good method for resolving disputes happening in the esports or in worlds where you have anonymous agents who, you don't know who are you working on the internet, and that used to be a traditional assumption of existing arbitration methods, and you knew who the parties were, which is now not true anymore.
You mentioned the immutability of blockchain as one of the advantages that drove you to implement Kleros. And just now, you said that it still needs to be confirmed that the decisions that the Kleros system implements will be accepted by the parties, and there will be a point where the losing party in a Kleros arbitration will say, no, I don't accept it, and they will sue in a traditional court. And that will challenge the immutability of a blockchain-based decision. Now, I am not a maximalist in this sense. Vitalik Buterin also is not a maximalist in this sense. When the DAO debacle created a situation where the future of Ethereum was at stake, he, among with others, decided that it was more important to maximize the probability of that future and rolled back the blockchain. And there were at that point people who were so incensed and so outraged by this decision that they decided, no, we'd rather have another fork. And that is how Ethereum Classic was born. Measured with the popularity of developers, it looks like Vitalik was right, because the number of people developing for Ethereum Classic is vanishingly small as compared with what we call Ethereum today. So how do you see the dynamic between the mathematical beauty of immutable but not at all pragmatic approaches and the necessity of learning from mistakes, of improving dynamically, iteratively through our insights, the meta knowledge that we build of how we can create systems that are better and better?
I mean, disputes need to be resolved with the system that was agreed with by the parties at the moment where they made this agreement. Like, so if they chose using Kleros for resolving the dispute at moment X, they should use that version of Kleros. But that said, the version that we have at Kleros now is not the version that we launched first on 2018. This one is improved. The incentive system is a bit different. The new version that is going to be released next year also has a number of improvements. For example, like different voting mechanisms drawn from our research in public choice theory. So the current version of Kleros is like only for binary disputes, cannot really handle disputes. We have like more options. So there are lots of improvements we're doing by learning. I mean, by the past experience we had, and we understand that. I mean, no one is going to get this right at the first one. I mean, you need to put something out, see how people use it, and after people use it, you have some learnings, and then you put those learnings into the next version, and then you do it again, and then again, and that's how you make a system which it becomes better at each iteration. So, I mean, it's a trial by error, which is something I really learned also at Singularity.
Absolutely. So I really want to thank you for having been with us today, and congratulations for having been able to go from idea to action to executed platform and protocol and token launch, and now busy working on version 2, which will follow by version 3, and the spin-off projects such as Proof of Humanity, which are also interesting and exciting in their own way. Maybe in a year's time, we can meet again and have another conversation and see how things went during the past year, and get an update for our viewers about Kleros and Proof of Humanity and everything else that you, Federico, will have been involved with in the meantime.
Definitely, David. Thanks for having me, and yeah, see you next time.
Bye-bye. So thank you, everyone, for having been with us at what is new in the world of blockchain, and we will see each other at the next episode soon.